A very fine morning to you and welcome to Signature Morning. I am Godwin Sunday. Now, this morning we'll be talking about the internship policy where the NYC rejects HND graduates at orientation camps without industrial training certifications. And joining me in this conversation is Bilal Aliu, who is a public affairs analyst. You're welcome to Signature Morning, Bilal.
It's my pleasure, Michael.
Okay, Godwin.
Godwin, yeah.
All right, so let's get into the conversation. What do you make of this policy by NYSC, where if HMD graduates don't go for their one-year training, IT training, and get certification for their industrial trainings, they won't be allowed to serve, because we just saw the last couple of days in the orientation camp, they were sent back home. What do you make of this development?
Well, first of all, I feel that shouldn't really be a priority because there's been a deficit in our educational system today, in the sense that it's being rigid, and the people frontline in the educational sectors are being conservative about, the policies that, guide the educational sector today. Well, we all know that the polytechnic students, go through industrial attachment twice, on the first, during the OND, the first day, they go for three months, serious. Then after the OND, then they proceed to go for the mandatory 1 year industrial attachments before proceeding for their HND. But, we tend to find out that a lot of people don't, partake in the 1 year mandatory internship. I think last month ago, the NYC came out with a circular, which stated that any PCM, prospective core members who doesn't, possess that certificate of completion of the 1 year mandatory internship wouldn't be registered in the camp. Well, actually, we shouldn't just, bring this whole situation to only polytechnic students, university students too, because we all know that polytechnic students are more ready for the labor markets, are well prepared, and they have the technical skills that would enable them thrive in the labor markets. That's one of the advantages that they have over students who go to the normal conventional universities. The universities today, some people don't, some courses don't require any form of internship. It's more of the technical ones, and which is just 6 months. And we know that the polytechnic students are more productive because going to the polytechnic, it's more of a practical based form of educational, system, which the university system doesn't, have at all. So I feel this shouldn't be a priority, and what they should look at is to, review the educational policy of the country and see how they can, bridge the gaps in the educational sector today.
All right, so Bilal, it has become like a popular question everywhere where people ask the salient question of are Nigerians youth being penalized by the government? Look at the NYSC policy right now of to polytechnic students. They've suffered some form of degradation when it has to do with result classifications in the country. There was a time where if you have NYSC, if you have HND, you've been ridiculed as though you didn't even have, it's not equivalent to a degree. And right now they're being thrown through this. Is this a direct target? Is this whole activity aimed at punishing the Nigerian youth, or is aimed at further degrading polytechnics? Let's look at it from this light.
As I said earlier, it's more of the policies, being implemented by the people frontlining the educational sector, which is very, very insensitive. Because, there is more of skill qualification framework, whereby for you to like possess, an equivalence of a bachelor's degree, you have to go through other forms of educational institution like the vocational. We have the normal academic, schools. Then we now have like the vocational form of like education, because most times there are people that are just born naturally, blessed with skills and anything that has to do with crafts and all. And looking at the Nigerian economy today, we don't just need people who go to conventional universities. We need skills that could be that to enable us address national issues, because in the country today there is a whole lot of the gaps in the skill and craft sector today. And there's so many the issues between the BSc holders and the HND holders needs to be like addressed, because there's a form of like stigmatization on the on the holders of HND qualification. Because when you go to the labor market, what the labor market needs, it's the people with the required skills to enable their organizations like solve problems which the universities don't have. In an advanced world today, they even more like consider people with vocational skills, that's like polytechnic, like certificate holder markets, because they know it is strictly practical based. So in this case now, I feel the government needs to review the educational sector. We need more of like vocational education, because when you look at we graduating, people from the universities, undergoing undergoing courses like computer science, mechanical engineering, and whereby when you take them to the field, they don't have or possess what it takes to deliver in the labor market. That's why most of our students, citizens, when they go out to the foreign countries in search of greener pastures, their certificates are being rendered useless, because they don't have what it takes to partake in the labor market. So I feel we have to review the educational system. You can't just be running a curriculum for the past 20 years without having a review about it, because right now the educational, we're in a knowledge economy. The educational sector today needs, it's more of like the tech world, whereby every year or every two years you have different technologies, and different, and trends and all that you have to like adopt, or else you'll be, kicked out of the markets. So that's the situations that these are the issues that we are facing. It's just like a Nigerian student going to study computer science in the university. It's just more of like if a student doesn't like tend to like go out for like professional courses with maybe training institutes like the NIT, the New Horizons, Aptech, and all for self-development, it will be as if you're just like wasting a whole 4 years of your life, because the curriculums are outdated. We are seeing new technologies today, like the Python, C++, the artificial intelligence. But a Nigerian student in the university is still being taught Fortran and COBOL, which are like first generational programming language that can solve any problems in this third world. You see maybe a 70-year-old professor who is like administering lectures to students based on this what do they call it, old programming, to languages. And in that case, when they go to the labor market, they're unable to deliver, because the tech industry keeps, it's dynamic. It's not static. It keeps changing, new technology. So you have to keep, to the latest trends. And another thing again is that our academics, like the professors and the lecturers, don't, go for, trainings. Like they don't train and retrain themselves, to be, ahead of, the time. I know, and most of the research that they keep doing are obsolete. The research that don't, provide solutions to real world problems. That's why in most cases, you tend to find out that most Nigerian professors present or propose, issue out proposals for research grants, and they are being torn down because they don't. The essence of a research is to find solutions to to a problem, but the contents of their research is being, based on like finding solutions to archaic problems that we don't need.
So Bilal, invariably you say that this policy is not targeted at further deteriorating and expanding the scope and the gap that exists between the government and the Nigerian youths.
Well, actually, the issue here is that we just need to have like a review
of the policy,
of the educational policy, because the people frontlining the educational sector today are static. They are not ready to like upgrade themselves, go out for, refresher courses, to keep abreast of the latest, trends and global technologies. Just like, for example, now, you go into a Nigerian university, there are no projectors like for, you see a professor coming into the classroom, writing codes on the boards, instead of like having a projector where you can like, practicalize, the whole thing for them to be able to like.
All right, sorry for cutting you at this point, but parents are asking at this point, who should be responsible for this whole razzmatazz, if you like to use that word, this whole jamboree of students arriving at orientation campgrounds and they are not given access because they don't have their 1 year IT certification? Should we blame the school? Should we blame the parents? Or should we blame the students or the graduates at this point in time? This conversation borders on three people. Should we be blaming the school? Shouldn't the school do some form of homework to ensure that before students begin to proceed to NYC orientation camp, they should have some form of, the head should roll, somebody should be able to take this blame. So who should we channel this to? So one is curious, it is a public issue of like people coming to Kuba orientation camp here and they were denied access. Who should be held responsible for this in system deficit or this let's see this lapses that has sprung forth?
Well, actually, this whole thing revolves like so the parties involved in this, because first of all, university students are they give more preference to value. University students are more valued than polytechnic students.
But this case is a polytechnic student issue. So
yeah. No, I'm going to let me learn. So looking at this situation now, a university degree takes 4 years. Some courses, depending on the courses, like a minimum of 4 years, and a polytechnic, the OND is 2 years, and the HND is an extra 2 years, making it 4 years. Then you now have a 1 year internship. When you look at it, it's not fair on the polytechnic students. It means that they're undergoing the training for 5 years, and their qualifications is not equivalent to a bachelor's degree. It's not really fair at all. The governments need to review this whole, because someone with a HND can't go or proceed for a master's degree.
So
you have to go to the PGD.
So the government should take responsibility for these lapses.
Yes, they are
so
part of the crisis.
NYC is at fault for students leaving their houses and knowing fully well that they didn't have the required certification and coming to orientation camp, and now they have been sent back home. Or the students should be able to be should be indifferent in this situation.
As I said earlier, it's the whole fault revolves within the parties, and there's the parents, the universities. like, okay, you've done your OND, and you proceed into your HND. Why admit students into HND programs whereby they don't have certificate of completion of uh, their 1 year mandatory internship. This is the schools too are part of the problems, and the government is also part of the problems,
Okay, so
and also the students.
it's a shared blame game.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
All right, let's move on, Bilal, at this point. A lot of persons will say that right now, with this policy by the government, which is not necessarily targeted at the polytechnic, just to give them a form of a standard, by these and other things, that the policy that the NYSC have put up lately, including the non-implementation of the minimum wage, like the director came out to say that they're not going to implement the minimum wage. They've not gotten to that level. Looking at all of this, and again, looking at the fact that a lot of people have lost their lives in the course of serving Nigeria, their motherland, should we at this point say that the NYSC has overstayed its welcome across the country? Looking at it from the advantage it has proffered, have we achieved enough in national unity to say that NYSC have achieved its aim? Or should we say that it's just a policy failure right now? That's why it's like this. You're a public affairs analyst, and I know that you have in-depth knowledge on these things. Of course, I'm a journalist, so you educate me on this.
Well, we all know that the NYSC was established immediately after the Civil War, and with the sole aim of like national integration, over the years, because the Civil War was caused by hate speech, religious bigotry, and those are the things that fueled the Civil War. And in that sense, there was no form of regional integration. Someone living from the north will hardly travel to the south in order to see what the country looks like. But with the establishment of the NYSC has like given it a chance to graduates to experience what the country looks like, because Nigeria is a very diverse nation, but this hasn't helped in improving regional integration in the country today. We still see issues of hate speech, religious bigotry, and all. So in this case, instead of scrapping the National Youth Service scheme, they need to reform the National Youth Service in this case, whereby they allocate more funds into the scheme. They have to review the policy. I know when you go to you find out that most corpers are being trained in the camp. It's just 21 days. They have what they call the Said, whereby they teach people on craft skills in order for them to be self-independent after their service year. But 21 days is not enough for you to acquire or learn a craft. So in this sense, they need to review the program and strengthen the scheme so that it will be effective. It will be able to encourage regional integrations and also skill acquisition, because most of the skill acquisition centers that they have are not even well funded. There are no equipment, no resources for them to administer these trainings. And in that case, in some cases, even some court members have to even pay. That's by the time they're out of camp, when they go to their respective place of primary assignments within that locality. Some are trying to look out for such skill acquisition centers partnered with NYSC. Some have to pay from their own pockets. So in this case, the program needs to be reviewed. In that sense, in order to, because in this country, what we need to look at right now is skills. What the young people need is skills. It's not really white collar jobs, because we don't even have enough industries to accommodate most of the graduates in there. Most of the industries are companies and multinationals are moving out of the country and going to neighboring countries like gather, and so, and in this case we tend to find out that it increases the rate of unemployment. So we are more focused on those issues of white collar jobs. So the main thing that we need right now is for the government to invest in skills.
All right. So Bilal, I asked that question in order to ask this one as a follow-up question to that. People are agitated that if the polytechnic students are getting an unfair treatment, they should be allowed to, some form of service corps should be developed for them differently that distinguishes them from the university, so that they will be able to also meet up with their own timing. Because after the C-West, you now come and do your industrial attachment, the timing is a little bit, the gap is wide. So in order for them to bridge that gap, polytechnic students should be given an opportunity to do their own thing and their own service. So invariably, polytechnic students are calling for a lot of things, demanding for a lot right now. So I'm asking right now, Bilal, again, for the second time, looking at the NYSC and its generality, should we be talking about another NYSC campground for polytechnic and a separate one for university students? Should that be a conversation that should take a national debate?
You know, looking at creating another scheme for the polytechnic students, it's not a priority. What the governments need to do, they need to, make a policy whereby they've been pushing for this, but it's not, prospering at all. They have to, make sure that the polytechnic graduates and the university graduates are equal. You get, when you go to advanced countries, I don't know, we don't do more of like, educational exchange, programs. We don't look at some of our foreign counterparts like Finland and the UK, When you go to the UK, for example, for you to be a graduate, you don't necessarily need to have a bachelor's degree. You can go, you have a HND and also progress to maybe a master's program or the PGD. And there are also professional qualifications too. Like when you look at ACCA, for example, which is like one of the world's foremost accounting regulatory body. Once you have an ACCA certification, it's equivalent, to a degree, and with that you can proceed, to having a PGD and also an MSc. In those days, even here in Nigeria, most of our grandparents, were opportune to like travel out of the country to acquire foreign education. Some had to like go through what they call the city and guilds. It's in levels. The city and guilds have qualification framework where there is one that is equivalent to a school, an SSE, even a diploma, and also a HND, and even a master's too. So they go through this. They don't go to the conventional universities. They go through maybe the city and guilds, training to acquire the skills, because they are more technical than the universities, and it makes it equivalent, because such qualifications like equivalent to a holder of a bachelor's degree. Because when you look at someone going to a conventional university or maybe going up to an MSc, I know it's more of like an academic qualification, but this is, looking at the ACCA, City and Guilds are known to be professional qualifications which are equivalent to, the university degrees, because someone with a professional qualification is going into a technical field, to enable him solve problems, for it could be for his organization or maybe for his own personal, business. But here in this part of the world, we are solely dependent on the conventional, like academic education. After your high school, you go straight to the university to get a degree. We value, degrees way better than, technical and professional skills. So I feel that's where the areas where the government needs to look at. We need to invest more on skills, in order to, enables of us like integrate the economies and make the country way better.
Well, Bilal, I wanted to take you up again on this other issue of converting NYC students can be converted. NYC core members can be converted to serve in the Nigerian army since we do the endurance trek. So I should feel that we should be able to, at least to a certain level, convert the core members to various military wing and paramilitary. I want us to talk about the structures of the NYC, but I've been signaled right now that we have to go. Probably we'll do this again, talking about public issues that borders on public concern, Bilal. So I want to say at this point, thank you so much for being a part of Signature Morning, Bilal.
It's my pleasure, Michael.
All right, we'll get into that conversation, but definitely not today. Well, viewers, this is how far we can go this morning on Signature Morning. I believe so much that the government is watching right now, and proactive steps are being taken to ensure that both the Nigerian universities and that of the Polytechnic certifications are regulated in such a way that even in the NYC orientation programs, a lot of modalities can be put to also try to rejig the system, just like Bill have said. Well, this is how far we can roll. I'll return you right now back to our Enugu studio for more updates on Signature Morning. I am Godwin Sunday. Enjoy.